All right, welcome back to Video DB Daily, everyone. You know why you're here.
To get right to the heart of what's happening at the forefront of AI and video infrastructure, I think that's why we're all here.
Exactly. And today, we've got something pretty big to dig into. Baidu, they've just dropped these two new AI models, Ernie 4.5 and Ernie X1.
Yeah, and this is big news for anyone really who's following how AI is changing, the whole landscape of video technology is
Yeah.
potentially a big deal.
All right, so two new models.
Yeah.
From what I'm seeing, Baidu's calling Ernie 4.5 their native multimodal model.
Right.
And they're saying that Ernie X1 is a deep thinking reasoning model. It sounds like they're kind of going after two different but connected parts of AI here.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. So Ernie 4.5, that one seems to be all about taking in all sorts of different information at once. Text, images, audio, video, like it's designed to understand it all together, not separately.
Interesting. And Ernie X1, on the other hand, that's more about the higher level thinking, right?
Yeah, exactly. Planning, problem solving, learning,
Yeah.
kind of mimicking those complex thought processes we have.
Okay, so let's start with Ernie 4.5 then.
Right.
What really makes it stand out in this whole multimodal world?
Well, the reports are saying that Baidu is claiming some pretty significant improvements in a lot of areas. Like they're saying it's better at understanding, generating stuff, reasoning, even memory.
Hmm.
And they're emphasizing that it's gotten better at avoiding like those AI hallucinations, like when an AI kind of makes things up. It's also got, they say, better logical reasoning and coding skills. And one thing that I found really interesting
Mhm.
is that Ernie 4.5 can apparently understand internet memes and satirical cartoons,
Oh, wow.
which means it's got a pretty advanced sense of context, right? Because to get that kind of humor, it needs to pick up on cultural stuff and all the things that aren't said directly.
Okay, so speaking of things that stand out, Baidu's also saying that Ernie 4.5 beats GPT 4.5 in a bunch of tests. But here's the kicker. They say it costs something like 1% of what GPT 4.5 costs. If that's really true, I mean, that's a huge difference. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's a pretty bold claim, but if they can back it up, it could really shake things up. Especially for video analytics, imagine having all these advanced AI features becoming much cheaper, could make them accessible to, well, everyone, really.
Right.
And a lot of that cost efficiency probably comes down to the tech they're using. Like, they've got this thing called flash mask dynamic attention masking. Probably helps the model focus its processing power, which is important when you're dealing with tons of video data.
All right, so let's move on to Ernie X1. What's at the heart of this deep thinking reasoning model?
Well, it's all about going beyond just understanding language or generating it. This is about, like you said, deep thinking. So understanding complex stuff, coming up with plans, reflecting on what it does, and then, crucially, learning and adapting over time. Baidu's saying it's really good at answering tough questions, especially in Chinese, creative writing, even dealing with complicated calculations. But what I think is really interesting, especially for those who are thinking about how this could change things in video production, is that it can use tools on its own.
Wait, hold on. Use tools. What do you mean by that?
So it can actually use different tools and functions by itself to solve problems. Like they're saying it can do advanced searches, analyze documents, interpret images, even generate images with AI, understand code, read web pages, create mind maps, even use special search engines for like academic or business info.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. I mean, think about how that could change things in, say, video editing or content creation. You could automate these complex tasks that used to take a lot of steps.
Exactly. It could be a game changer.
Now, I know Baidu's made some performance comparisons here, too. They're saying Ernie X1 is as good as DeepSeek's R1 model, but for half the price. Another bold statement.
Yeah, DeepSeek's R1, that's known for its reasoning abilities. So if Ernie X1 can really match that for cheaper, well, that makes it a pretty attractive option, especially for people who need that level of reasoning power.
Right. And I'm guessing the tech behind it, like their progressive reinforcement learning and that end-to-end training method, that all plays a part in getting to that performance level.
It all ties in, yeah.
Okay. So we've got these two new models.
Yeah.
What's Baidu's plan for getting them into the hands of developers and users?
So they've got kind of a two-pronged approach. For companies and developers, both models are going to be available through APIs on Baidu AI Cloud's Keen Fan platform.
Yeah.
They've even announced the pricing, and actually, Ernie 4.5 is slightly more expensive per token than Ernie X1 for both input and output.
Makes sense. Now, what about regular users? What's the plan for them? I heard Ernie Bot is free now.
That's right. They actually sped things up and made Ernie Bot free for everyone earlier than they said they would. And that bot, it uses these new models. So you can try out both Ernie 4.5 and Ernie X1 for free right now on the Ernie Bot website.
Free access for everyone, huh? That's a pretty interesting move. What do you think that means for the bigger picture?
Well, for starters, it could mean a lot of people start using these models really quickly. That means Baidu gets a ton of user data and feedback.
I see.
And for companies, those competitive prices could put some pressure on other AI providers. It could even change how they charge for AI features, across the whole industry.
Interesting. Now let's talk competition. How do these new Ernie models compare to the big names out there, like OpenAI's GPT models, DeepSeek R1,
Yeah.
and Google's Gemini?
Oh, Baidu's definitely going head to head with them. I think Ernie X1, with its focus on reasoning and using tools, it could have a real edge in situations that need complex problem solving. That might set it apart from, say, GPT-4, which is amazing at language and handling different types of data, but maybe not as strong on its own when it comes to complex reasoning.
Okay.
And Gemini, that's all about scaling up and getting things done right. But Ernie X1's strengths in reasoning and using tools, that might be a key difference there too. And then with Ernie 4.5, the fact that they're saying it's at least as good, if not better, at understanding different types of data, but for way cheaper than GPT 4.5, that's a direct challenge.
It sounds like Baidu's not just throwing these models out there. They've got a plan for how to actually use them.
Exactly. They want to put these AI abilities right into their existing systems. I'm talking about things like Baidu Search, which has hundreds of millions of users, and their Wangxian app.
Right.
If they put these models into those platforms, that could be a huge deal for how people use them. And it could open up all sorts of new possibilities for AI-powered video features in the future.
So where does Baidu see AI going from here,
Yeah.
especially with all these advancements?
Well, they seem really optimistic. They think 2025 is going to be a huge year for AI, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. They're investing in research, data centers, cloud infrastructure, the whole works. They're clearly serious about staying ahead of the game and developing even more sophisticated models down the line.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about free access, but what about this open sourcing plan?
Oh, yeah. That's another potential game changer. They're planning to make the code for Ernie X1 public by June 30th, 2025. Imagine that, having this advanced reasoning model out in the open. That could really democratize AI, give more developers and researchers the chance to work with it and build on it. And when you combine that with the affordable prices for companies and the free access for everyone else, well, that could have a massive impact on the whole AI landscape, especially for things like video infrastructure and all the applications that go with it.
So for our listeners who are really focused on AI and video infrastructure, what's the big takeaway here?
Well, I'd say the release of Ernie 4.5 and X1, it's a pretty big step forward for AI, especially when you look at how they can handle all kinds of data and do complex reasoning. Plus, Baidu's being pretty aggressive with their pricing and making it accessible to everyone.
Right.
That free consumer access and open sourcing plan, that could really shake up the AI market. It could change how AI gets integrated into all sorts of tech, including video infrastructure and applications. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. And this brings us to something for all of you to think about. Given all these advances in AI reasoning and this move towards making it more affordable and accessible, how do you think Baidu's strategy of free consumer access and competitive pricing for businesses is going to shape the way AI and video technology companies do business in the future? It's a question worth pondering as we continue to follow all these developments. And that brings us to the end of another VideoDB Daily. Thanks for joining us, everyone.